Where did it go? Hello guys, my name is Soner. Today we're gonna talk about FPV drones. Back in days when I was flying FPV drones, it was weird. I mean, as you see, this is really old nowadays. The real guys, the real FPV pilots are using Fat Shark goggles and such. Some people is also using DJI goggles. They are making amazing stuff. This is pretty old. Back in days when I was flying FPV drone, I mean, flying FPV drones was weird and people were like wondering what you're doing, and they were just curious actually. But those days are almost past, because now DJI is also making FPV drone. There is good stuff about it and there is also bad stuff about it. I don't want to make a video complaining about, hey, this drone is bad and blah blah blah. I'm not gonna do that. Instead, I will just say what I like about the DJI FPV drone and what I dislike about it. So you might find some information what other people is not talking about this drone, so stay tuned for those. I'm kind of sad I stopped flying FPV drones. My FPV stuff is just, you know, getting dust on the shell. I don't know why I don't sell these. I'm just thinking I will use them one day, but I just keep thinking I will use them one day, but actually that day never come. The reason why I stopped flying FPV drones was the DJI. When DJI Mavic Pro came, I bought it right away because I was so charmed how compact it's looking and like the features and everything. So I bought it right away and I didn't regret at all. And after I bought this drone, I didn't fly my FPV drone. Maybe one time or something I flied it. But after this, I mean, it didn't make any sense to fly an FPV drone anymore because this was so stable and I was able to get 4K footage out of it. And now DJI came up with the DJI FPV drone. So when I was flying FPV drone, you had to have a drone something like this and a controller something like this. And back in days, you had to build these drones by yourself. So I was buying all the parts individually and I was soldering everything together, building this whole thing. After that, you have to connect this to your computer, and with the software you have to program the flight controller which is built into this drone. So there was a really big learning curve if you don't know what you're doing. You had to search many things about FPV drones and settings and everything. After I passed that learning curve, then I got these goggles actually, because then I got convenient to fly the drone and such, so it was fun to fly this. But if I was gonna fly an FPV drone, I had to carry this controller, this drone, these goggles, and lots of extra batteries. These are finishing like around 4 or 5 minutes, maybe 3 even. It depends on their size and everything, and they take time to, you know, charge. So you have to have really many of these if you want to try for a longer period of time. And when you were gonna charge those batteries, you had to have a charger and you had to place almost all of those batteries individually, and you had to keep a track on them, and they weren't so safe to charge as well. So after all these hustle, I was kind of fed up with that, because those times it was really a bit difficult to handle this whole FPV thing for me. Then when I got my DJI Mavic Pro, I was like, what I was thinking, you know, it was just so good to be true. I mean, it was so handy and it was so good and it was so pleasing to fly, because that thing was just staying on air. When you're flying an FPV drone, you have to have a controller in your hand and you cannot take your head somewhere. You have to see where is your drone and what is it doing, because that thing is really dangerous, carbon fiber body. So if it falls somewhere on a car or a human is so scary. Anyway, that was so dangerous, so you had to kind of make sure that there is a no danger zone around you, and you have to make sure that you are flying in a safe zone. So after the DJI Mavic Pro, I was pleased to fly a drone, and now DJI has released this amazing looking DJI FPV drone. But is it really amazing? I have complained a lot already about my FPV gear, and now I'm kind of gonna complain about the DJI FPV drone as well. There is of course stuff that I didn't like about DJI FPV drone. Let's talk about the good stuff about this drone. DJI is an amazing brand in my opinion, because everything they build is screaming quality. I have used their drones and also the gimbals, and I didn't have so much issues with their products. And DJI FPV drone is offering so much for a beginner FPV pilot. It has its own controller, it has its own goggles, and it has really good flight characteristics. If you're just starting out and if you want to get into FPV, and if you don't want to build these by yourself, and if you don't know soldering, and if you don't know how the electronics works and how you can program your own FPV drone from a computer, as I was saying, if you want to fly your FPV drone, you have to have these batteries, and they are finishing after 3-5 minutes. And after you go home, you have to charge these, and you have to keep an eye on these, because these tend to explode and cause fire if they're damaged. And if you're flying a real FPV drone, most probably you're crashing the drone. And I will come that in a second with the DJI FPV drone about the crashing and such. So, but if you're crashing that FPV drone, that normal FPV drone, these are gonna get damaged for sure, and you don't want to charge damaged LiPo batteries at home. Like, you have to really keep an eye on them. These are really dangerous, and DJI batteries are more safer than these batteries, and plus these are easier to charge, and these are smart batteries as well, so they are very much more better than these normal FPV batteries for sure. And the size wise, DJI FPV drone is also very much more better than using a normal FPV drone. I mean, look at this controller, it's like huge, and DJI controllers are really small compared to, you know, some old, this huge controllers. So I mean, if the size factor is matter for you, I think DJI drones is way much more better. I mean, look at this thing. And so if you think about the size of the DJI drone and the battery and the goggles as well, I mean, look at this goggles. I mean, who would like to put that? I mean, now I'm checking this thing, and I'm thinking like what I was thinking, and I'm also wondering what people were thinking about me when they see that I'm wearing this weird looking thing. Anyway, so these were overall the good things about the DJI FPV drone that I liked. And big respect to DJI for getting into FPV world. I think this is their first attempt. They're gonna be better in the future for sure. So it's kind of good to have critics, in my opinion, for the DJI to kind of develop this FPV drone thing, because I'm sure they will come way much more better stuff in the future. But if you consider this is their first attempt to make an FPV drone, I think they done a really good job. But let's talk about the stuff that I didn't like about the DJI FPV drone. First things first, as I was saying, I was building this FPV drone by myself. So if you're into that kind of stuff, and if you like to build your own stuff, and if you want to tweak those really much, I don't think FPV drone is for you, because for example, I can change these batteries and the ESCs, and this will become a completely different thing. But the DJI FPV drone, you're not able to do that kind of stuff. So it's pretty much a kit that you have to stick with for a long time, and when the technology gets old, the drone gets old. And with this right now, I can just change, as I was saying, the battery, ESC, maybe even the flight controller, and this will be totally fine. But of course it's gonna cost now we are coming to a different topic. I mean, the cost of this thing. These FPV drones are way much more cheaper to keep it on air, because if you want to really do real FPV, if you want to do flips and such, these old school FPV drones are way to go. Because with the DJI FPV drone, I don't think you can do flips, but if you can do flips, I wouldn't recommend that at all, because if you drop that thing, I mean, that would be a little bit costly. There's no option that you can like change an arm on the DJI FPV drone or something, because if you drop this thing and if one arm broke, so you can change that arm, and if the other stuff is not damaged, you're good to go. Or you can change only the damaged stuff and this will again start flying with no problem. But with the DJI FPV drone, if you're gonna go wild with it, I don't think that's a good idea, because I don't think DJI FPV drone is gonna take so much beating. And as I was saying, these are cheaper to keep on air, because I mean, they're like third-party products, and the propellers and everything is really cheap. I mean, there is, for example, 10 pairs of propellers here for this drone, and they are not costing a lot. So long story short, if you are gonna go wild with this FPV drone thing, I don't think DJI FPV drone is the best choice for you. Even if you're starting to go into hobby, you would like to maybe get a ready-built FPV drone and start from there instead of DJI FPV drone. But if you're not planning to go so extreme with the DJI FPV drone, then I think you will be totally fine. I want to also talk another thing what I disliked about the DJI FPV drone is when I first got my DJI Mavic Pro, the key function was the camera. Because this doesn't have any recording options. I mean, you have to attach a camera to this, and most probably it's gonna be a GoPro or something, and when you do that, it adds the weight and blah blah blah. It works fine, but main reason why I got the Mavic Pro was the camera. 4K footage was a key feature that I have liked in DJI Mavic Pro. DJI FPV drone has also built-in camera, but it's in the cheap side. Before I tell you my final thoughts about the DJI FPV drone, please crush the like button, it does matter a lot. And if you would like to see this kind of content, please consider subscribing. So should you get the DJI FPV drone? If you own a drone, most probably you got the idea what I'm trying to tell to you. But if you want a short answer, I think you should get this drone if you want an FPV drone. Because I believe DJI FPV drone is the best FPV drone in the market right now. Even though there is downsides as I was explaining to you, but if you consider what you get from this package is right now amazing. I was already explaining what kind of hustle I had when I was trying to fly an FPV drone. Of course, now it's easier to build FPV drones and fly them, because there is way much more information and products on the internet. But if you want to skip that part, and if you just want to take the drone outside, put the goggles and fly and have fun with a really stable, good goggles, good controller, good battery life, and okay camera drone, I think DJI FPV drone is really good pick for you. But if you like building your own stuff and upgrading it and getting better results from it day by day, in that case, of course, these things are really fun to fly, and the stuff you can do these are really extreme and fun, so you might want to maybe try these in that case. That's it for today, guys. I hope I didn't confuse you more, and if I did, I'm sorry for that. But you can ask me anything in the comment section if you want to know anything about the FPV drones or any information. Thanks for watching. Again, if you liked the video, please crush the like button and don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. It doesn't matter which drone you fly, make sure that you fly it safely.